we were just playing, trying to figure out what's going on. And like this was Sweden in 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago. I didn't know English, so and everything was in English. So that was a little bit of an issue as well. And just try to understand, okay, what's going on, how does it work, and then bit by bit, then get more understanding on what's going on.
Hey everyone, welcome to the How I Got Here podcast. I'm your host, Travis Waters, and I designed this podcast to share stories that are worth telling. Whether it's about somebody going from zero to hero, hero to zero, or simply something in between. On today's episode, we're joined by Rickard from Internet Vikings. We'll learn about how his essentially entire life was always focused on something PC related, an interest with computers, and how that got him to where he is today. Let's go ahead and hop into our conversation with him now. Enjoy. Hey guys, welcome to the How I Got Here podcast. On today's episode, we are joined with Rickard from Internet Vikings. For those that may not know you by name or by face yet, let's start with like a quick 10-second overview of where you are right now in your early 2026 on the business side of things.
On the business side of things, I feel very good. Just got back from ice, and that was a massive show, so I got a cold, like everyone else, I guess, after the show. But recovering from that and looking forward to 2026.
All right, love to hear it. We always like starting these off with kind of tapping into your brain in terms of how back the memory goes. The very first time, as early on as you can possibly go, where you had some passion for doing something or some idea for this is what I want to be when I grow up. Anything around that aspect? What was that first idea that you can remember, and roughly how old were you?
I would say around like 10 years. Want to do like my father was a master of science and wanted to do something similar, work with computers, and that was I think what I was leaning against. Maybe even a little bit earlier, like 8 years old or so.
What about computers was the most interesting aspect to you? Was it the software side, the hardware side, the building, the playing, and what was the peak interest of that?
I would say both the hardware side and software. Like this is we're talking like 92, 93. So I'm 40 today for those who like to count. And we like I it was just when internet just came. There was a lot of things happening on the home computer side, personal computers. We just released. It became like the normal household could actually afford a computer and get one. And my father used to work at Sun Microsystem, today Oracle, with Unix um, computers, Unix servers, and they had some spare computers at his office that he could just bring home, and that's what I started playing with. So, like my first computer was literally a Unix Sun Microsystem server, not server, but a workstation.
So when he was bringing the computers, were they like broken computers that he was just bringing back for parts, and you're like, let me see if I can rebuild something from scratch, or were these working computers that you were just working on, just learning? Because yeah, that is the very first time that the popularity of them come out. So there's not really a tutorial for kids of that age of this is how you use a PC.
Exactly, but it wasn't broken. It was like older hardware, and you couldn't sell anymore. So that someone had switched to a newer model that then you could take home the old one. And we were just playing, trying to figure out what's going on. And like this was Sweden in 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago. I didn't know English, so and everything was in English. So that was a little bit of an issue as well. And just try to understand, okay, what's going on, how does it work, and then bit by bit, then get more understanding on what's going on.
So I know you said earlier this is the first generation of home PCs, and not every household can afford one. And I was thinking back to on my end where during this time, like I feel like every kid in school, which I know everybody's got different financial scenarios, but I was like the last kid in my class to get a PC. And then years later, the first kid in my class actually get internet in the PC, and something that I guess I never realized because I had the benefit of being someone who English is a first language. I never thought about that where like the first editions of things, like the first Windows or the first Apple or whatever, were typically in English. And so, yeah, like you're looking at this and it's words that you don't recognize and you're just trying to figure it out, which, yeah, that's something that's so interesting. So, w- I don't know if I'm skipping too far ahead here, but would you say that your fascination with PCs kickstarted your interest in learning English?
I wouldn't say so because later further on they just translated everything to Swedish and then that was it. But I would say that I learned a lot from reading manuals. Like a lot of the English I learned at the time was from like just reading everything or anything like how-to guides connected to what to do on with the computer.
So interesting. So when you were getting these older versions after the dad's company was like upgrading to the newer stuff, were you taking these apart and then trying to rebuild them? Was that part of the interest that you had?
Yeah, 100%. Like I learned a lot how I don't know SCSI works, how the sound card worked, how everything tried to connect and put it, take it apart, put it together, like connect. Okay, on this computer I have these hard drives, and this one I have this. I connect the IDE ports here. I have the memory here. Just move things around.
I feel like if you were, so you're still around the age 10, age 11 at this point, right? So I feel
Yeah,
like, when you successfully like deconstruct to the motherboard, a blank motherboard, and then you build it back up from there, are you feeling like a, like a wizard at that point? Like this is a new thing that is new to the world and I know now how to build it from scratch, and you're still extremely young at this point?
to be honest, I didn't, and I think that is because it was just quite natural, and it wasn't that like at the time computer was not a cool thing. Like if you're 10, 12, like there's a lot of other people doing sports and doing other things. That's like the cool things people do, not sitting at home, like deconstructing a computer. That was not like the cool thing you can do when you were 12.
Oh,
But it was the
yeah.
thing I know I thought was fun. So that was the thing I did.
Yeah, I guess you have a point there. So yeah, I have to put down my computer nerd hat and put on my average 11-year-old hat and feel like, yeah, I guess that's kind of something that like, oh, if you like computers, you're a nerd or whatever. Like you're not part of the status quo. So from the age 10 to 11, you're learning everything, the ins and outs of everything PC wise. When that goes to later on in school, maybe before or for university, did that stick with you to where you never lost interest in doing something that was computer related?
Yeah. No, but I would say from when I was like 12, 13 to 18, like if you look at I was at a computer 10 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Was
That
it,
I learned so much during that time.
did you have, so I know you said like a little bit of the software side. Were you focused mainly on, I guess, in terms of like splitting it, like a 50-50 or a 60-40? How much of that was on the deconstructing, reconstructing, figuring out the physical aspects of the PC, and how much was like like there's this new game that just came out that I have, and I'm like playing games and learning about what's possible with this new technology? What would you say the split was roughly? Sort of on, let's just say like the age 14, 15.
I would say 50-50 hardware and software, but I wouldn't say playing games. I didn't play any computer games or anything. It was like either programming, C, assembler, anything, or just learning like Linux security, Unix, as well, setting up web servers, mail servers, DNS, like anything we can could find in terms of the server setups of the world.
So essentially, if you had other friends that were also if you want to classify like as the computer nerds of this specific era, and they were on the software gaming side. They were playing these new games that were coming out. Where like when you guys were chatting at school, was it something like, yeah, but do you know how that game works? And you have all because you know all the ins and outs of it. So was that kind of the relationship or the mindset you had when you talked to peers your age that were more interested on the gaming side?
Yeah, 100%. And help them if they had an issue with the network, they couldn't get to play, I don't know, Counter Strike or Quake against each other. I could help them to figure it out.
Man,
But I would also say that we were like a handful, up to a dozen, of like Linux more focused, security more focused people from that suburb area of Stockholm, where I'm from. That was like super interesting programming, developing software, servers, and so on.
so when it got point to figure out what you, I guess, quote unquote, wanted to study, what your focus, your major wanted to be on when you get to university, how defined was the focus? Or was it more of, I like everything from on the PC side, so it's like a generic computer science degree? Or was it very fine tuned to a specific type of computer science, I guess?
And that's the thing. I didn't go to university. I stopped
Okay.
studying when I was 19, 18, 19. So I I guess I started working directly after in Sweden, the gymnasium, but when I was 18, 19.
I guess, I mean, that definitely makes sense because now that I think about it, it's you essentially, your university time was 12 to 18 of the people that would be teaching you in university anyway, maybe didn't even have that 6 year lead in of all the stuff that you learned and you figured out. Like what, like there's nothing from the deconstructing, the reconstructing, the figuring out the ports, the networks. There's nothing that I haven't figured out because I've had so much time to focus on it that I guess at that point, because it's so early on that even if there was a computer science degree of some sort, that anybody to be teaching you would have the exact same time spent on learning that everything that you did. So yeah, I guess that thinking about that, looking back, makes a lot of sense. So now, when you're at 18, instead of going the route of going to university, what was the once your schooling wrapped up? What was like the first step into, I guess you could say, quote unquote, the real world?
No, but we like first of all, while school, we were like, again 10, 20 people that was like super computer interested, secure IT security interested uh, friends. Like some of them again started some of the biggest companies in the world. Some have done a lot of amazing things on the internet. Um, we and I would say that's also why there's a lot of software companies and startups coming from Stockholm because you have so much people like 25 years ago that did so many different things and there was no boundaries, there was no barriers. It was like, okay, let's see what happens. Let's just do it, set up a website, and then something just led to the other. Like from like a very good example that I always bring up is Pirate Bay that came out of this group of people that was just okay, let's see what happens, and then one thing led to the other, and it became one of the biggest sites in the world.
So
So that was kind of the interest, like just to
yeah.
try. And 25 years ago, there was no, there was not so much money into the hardware, the software side as it is today. Like we're talking trillions and trillions and trillions. Back then, it was like everyone just wanted to do their own thing, try some things, and then see what happened. Um, and that's also going back a few years, like where I met my business partner, Victor, that I run, like literally all the companies we run together, 50-50. And we got to know each other when we were like 15, 16. But his mother was my kindergarten teacher when I was 9, 10. So we've known each other for a very long time.
So are you saying because the industry is not robust enough to where anybody can have a career, anybody with interest can have a career in anything computers, from early on, 10 years old, all the way to now to 18, 19, was it never an idea of like, oh, this is 100% what I want to do for a living because there wasn't many opportunities that existed at that point? Was it just a passion or a hobby and not necessarily a job focus or a future job focus?
It was a hobby. It was a hobby. Eventually, like back, I never thought internet and computers would be as big as it became. I don't think many people saw it like that 25 years ago. That internet would like be like dominating everything we do today. And because if anyone would have, like the people who understood that, like, probably made a lot of money from it and did some good things from it. No, so it was just an interest doing it. And then when I quit school when I was 19, I started working at a small ISP, helping broadband customers get things going and setting up network and so on for a couple of months.
Okay, so you did go to that realm after finishing schooling around the age of 19. So I know you just kind of answered the next part of how long did that last. You said a couple months. When you finished that, or when that couple months expired, was it something where you found another opportunity to grow into the space because more opportunities were coming out as this new industry was unfolding?
Yeah, no, so that company didn't do so well. So a friend of mine uh, did consulting on a web hosting company, and I switched to that in October of 2004 to that web hosting company as a Linux sysadmin, um, to help them set up the servers, run all the websites. They had a couple of thousand customers that I helped run all those websites, mail servers, DNS servers, domain names, and so on.
Not to, I don't want to jump too far ahead too fast here, but I know you were mentioning earlier about your business partner that you met early, very early on in life, and you've done a lot of things 50-50 together. So right now, we're what 2004. What is that for you? That's age 20, 21, around there.
No, 19, 19.
19. Okay, so 19, 2004. That's when you get the hosting opportunity. That role. Did you start having any? The term I use on this on this podcast is brain babies. Did you start having a brain baby of I'm so interested in this. I know so much about this. I know that something doesn't exist yet that I have an interest in creating in terms of like, did you have any entrepreneurial related brain babies at age 19 during this time of working at this hosting provider?
Yeah. I had a small company at the time doing like TV information systems at schools. So basically, when you go into like a high school, you usually have it like a TV to see, okay, this teacher is sick. This is the food of the day. If they have some restaurant and just information, this is what's coming up on in the school. And everyone previously just had a PowerPoint presentation where they just had it on presentation mode or slideshow, and we just created a website for it, the backend. We used an Xbox to push that into the TV network of the school, and had a lot of work with that. So that was like the first thing I did when I was like 17, 18. The issue with that company was it costed, like it was, because it was hardware. Like you had an Xbox, you had that you run Linux on, there was a web browser that you had to run. It was so many things that you need to like fix for it to work. And the just the schools didn't want to pay for it. Like they because they didn't have any money. That was like a nice thing to have. This was not a neat thing to have, to get that information out to the students, which then it I just we couldn't sustain the company because so we just closed it down.
Something that I guess I didn't realize that I found interesting until you were talking about this Xbox being used. It's that I was thinking about I love seeing video games in the wild or something video game related in the wild where somebody is using something that is video game related but not for a video game purpose. I think I mean, I don't own a Tesla, nor have I ever drove a Tesla vehicle before, but I'm pretty sure there's some sort of like video game controller that somebody like synced to it where they could they could use a video game controller to use it. I believe in the military they use like a PlayStation controller for any of these the remote control bomb searching bots that they have. And so yeah, just like using software for a different purpose is just, I don't know, I find that interesting. And I guess I'm curious on the Xbox side. So how quickly did you come to the idea that I can use this video game system to accomplish this goal as opposed to building your own PC with all the parts and stuff you have at this point? Was it something that was just second nature of, oh, I know how this Xbox works, so let's just repurpose it for this? How did that idea come?
I think I discussed with a friend of mine. I think he said like, okay, but let's see if we can install Linux on this Xbox and just launch a web browser in it that's pre-defined which website to go to, because an Xbox have the output from an Xbox you can plug into a TV, like a TV coax
Yeah.
network. That was the whole thing. Okay, what cheap device can we find that can connect into a coax TV network?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. That's you
That was
start
the
from
yeah.
the hardest part of how do we get this to show on TV? Get something that already connects to a TV, and then kind of work in reverse from there. So we're still around 2004, 19 years old. This is your second now company you're working for. You did I believe you said ISP first. Now we're at the hosting side. How long did that opportunity last at that location or that job or company before you I guess leveled up and went to something else?
I did it for a little more than a year. We but because that company was acquired by a bigger hosting company, and Stefan, who ran that company I joined, we all still work together by this day. He really we together founded a few other companies. I'll come back to that later, but we still work together. And so at Azalea Web Design, I was there for a year. Then that was bought by a company called Crystone, which is a Scandinavian hosting company. Still exists, but it's and that was like end of 2005.
So did
Uh,
you so make sure I understand this correctly. So after that was acquired, did you and your team that was already working at the company pre-acquisition, did everybody kind of stick around? It was just more opportunity under a bigger parent company essentially?
yeah, yeah, 100%. And they had, it was quite funny when I started. I was like, okay, I'm just 19. I'm already, yeah, just turned 20. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Because I compared myself to all this, like the really super good tech persons I was working, like all my friends basically. And when I came there, it's like, okay, I think I will be a junior person. Then I realized, okay, I on the technical side, I know more than everyone here. So it took me, let's say, 6 months before I went from like more junior role into I built two data centers, one in southern Sweden, one in Stockholm. We moved over 1,000 servers from Norway, from Sweden, over to these two new data centers. And I was project manager for all that work, and I was 20 at the time, which like back then it wasn't that strange. But if you look today, if you tell a 20-year-old, okay, please go build a 1,000 server data center from scratch with electricity, with this, with racks, and just procure everything and have a budget for it and just make things work. No one would do that. But that's what I did 20 years ago.
So all of the stuff that you're doing and building these data centers and having more responsibilities and a higher role, this is all still with the same company who was acquired by this larger
Yeah.
one. So how long, and I know that you've clearly had a ton of different hats during this time with this company and like I said, more things. As you realize that your technical side is a lot greater than some others that you were working with, how long did this path last from when you first started working for them, I guess pre-acquisition, which is still what, 2004? how many years were you with this company until your next opportunity came about?
I was in that group because I then went up to the group company for a year. So I left 2008, like summer 2008, more or less. Uh, and then I had a few different roles during that time. And like I learned the founder of that company, Matthias, he was that today also runs one of the biggest hosting companies in Europe and maybe also in the world. He because he also sticked in the hosting industry. He taught me a lot about marketing, sales, like how you do sales, what do you do, how you get things sold to the customer. Because my background was technical. I was a very introvert, technical person, but he taught me a lot during that time how to market things, how to go out there and just show the world, okay, this is how we do, how you can sell your products. And I have a lot to thank him for, and also Stefan also, but Matthias, that I'm not working with today, like on how he taught me on the sales marketing side of the business.
So you said roughly 2004 to 2008, with all the different kind of roles that happened. Did the leapfrog from this entity to your next opportunity, was it because you started getting more skills, more responsibility, and you're like, okay, now I want to level up even more? Like, what, I guess, what was the reasoning between going from somebody that you were working with for 4 years into the next opportunity?
Because we started what is today Internet Vikings.
Well, yeah.
That's it's that easy, and me and Victor in 2007 started what is today Internet Vikings. Me, Victor, Stefan, and Jens started a email security company at exact also 2007, um, that we ran for 8 years. But we built that email security platform that became the biggest email security platform in Sweden over the next 8 years. But it's that was the reason. I was like I wanted to do something by myself. I wanted to build something. I didn't want to work with shared hosting, like web hosting. I wanted to do like more premium hosting. We found the space. We bought a lot of IP addresses. We got a few servers and just used that to build up what is today Internet Vikings.
So I know you were just mentioning that the first concept was this email security, and I know Internet Vikings today, which is 18 years later, is much more robust than just
Yeah.
email security. How many, I'm trying not to fast forward 18 years in one question, but how many how many different ideations of Internet Vikings were there from email security
Yeah.
to where it is right now in 2026?
That's a good question. The email security was actually another company. But it was started at the same time in parallel as Internet Vikings. The email security company was called Stay Secure. It was bought by J2 Global, Sif Davis in 2014. Um, but to answer the iteration about the Internet Vikings, I would say five, five different iterations for the last 18 years. And it's been, to the last 5 years, that's been the most interesting ones, as always, um, because you get a hockey stick. Usually, it's a lot more fun in the end. But the first 5 years was more like for fun. Like the reason why I could start it, I had like my fixed cost at the time was like $400 a month. So I had an apartment I that I had to pay for. I had like no cost to, that I needed to pay, and that okay, 4,000 a month. I can probably sustain that. So yes, just do something and then build it from there.
So with this, I believe you said five iterations of what is now Internet Vikings today. Was it, here's idea one, let's add more to it for idea two, or was it idea one, this is not going to work long term, let's completely shift and pivot into idea two? Was it expanding upon each idea in these five, or was it just, were there a lot of pivots happening?
No, but I would say expanding on top of it. We have one of our, like I think second or third customer. It's an internet marketing company in Sweden. They're still a customer of Internet Vikings. Now I think they became a customer end of 2008, beginning of 2009, and they're still a customer of Internet Vikings. So 16 or 17 years down, and we have a great relationship with them, uh, and so on. So we have that base hosting product, and then we have had a few different test products that we've tried over these years that didn't work. Okay, then we go back. Then you try something, and I think that's like the entrepreneurial thing. Okay, you should always try to expand your business. Try to understand. Okay, can we do something else with this? But when you say, okay, this the market fit is not here. Okay, let's go back to what we do.
So during this 5 iteration period of adding more and more to the original concept and expanding on terms of what you do, what your offerings are, everything like that, were you exponentially growing the team in each of these iterations up till now? Or do you think that comparing the entire Internet Vikings team today to the first few years has not expanded that much? Or I don't know if I'm wording this correctly, but has the staff of Internet Vikings exponentially increased through each iteration? Or has it been essentially a tight knit family that's just adding more ideas and more possibilities?
I would say it's been we try to not expand like headcount if we don't need to. Like it's been like a philosophy that we like really need to have a reason for it. And it's been going up and down. It's I think one point we were like more people than we are today, and like end of 2021, then it went down a bit, and then going up. So it's just more organic. What kind of skill set and what kind of team we need for a company today is different for yesterday and maybe also for tomorrow. And that's just something reevaluate and see where it leads.
Something I want to go back on from, I think, a few minutes ago. You're talking about how essentially growing up, when you were in this computer fascination, early computer fascination period, you said you were very introverted, and you credit, I believe, what's his name, Matthias? Was that who you were
But yes,
mentioning?
yeah.
That he was the one that essentially showed you, hey, this, like, you're crushing this, but if you're going to crush it as much as you want to, you're going to need to be face to face with people. You're going to be able to sell things. And I think that's very interesting because I only know you as that person. I don't know the introvert Rickard individual. And that's just, it's something that's, I don't know, it's just interesting because there's so many people that start one way and then have to learn the opposite. So like for me on my end is, I mean, I was doing plays and musicals in high school performance wise. So I was the extrovert that then learn the technical side of things. And then so yeah, it's just the path that people take to accomplish their goals, whether they start on one end of the sword or the other, is it's, I don't know, it's just so interesting. So we essentially have this 18-year period leading to today where it's grown a lot. There's been a lot of things added to it. Yeah, I don't know if anybody that is watching this is part of the sports betting or the iGaming space, and you've been to at least one conference. Even if you don't think that you've met Rickard in person, I guarantee you've walked past him because the Internet Vikings section of every expo floor is definitely relevant and prevalent in the space. But what I want to do here, we essentially, before I kind of go to my usual wrap up question, I think I have one more about Internet Vikings, and it's looking back on Internet Vikings 1.0 and now Internet Vikings 2026. And I know even at the beginning, it maybe not even was called that. Where do you often look back and you're like, man, like that first idea would have never worked out today. Like the fact that the only reason I'm successful today is because I did keep expanding and I kept growing with the market and the needs of the industry. Is that something? Do you ever have like a reflection? Because 18 years growing one brain baby, if you will, I'm sure there's like a. I personally would think have a lot of reflection often because that's a very long period of time. But is that something you do when you just think about it for this particular entity?
I mean, I would say like we have had me and Victor over this period of time. We have had like a few other companies. Like Internet Vikings is one part of the group we have. We have we had Windsure. It was a Google rank tracker. We sold that a year ago. We have a new IT security company together with Stefan called Holm Security, doing vulnerability assessment and uh, pen testing. Also doing great. So over this years, we it's not that we've been sitting still doing one company. We've also done a few other things. Today we have Domain Crawler that's doing amazingly, and that's run by Anna and Vadim and that team. So we really built this like not we do Vikings, but we've also done a few other things just to test things. Um, but I would say with Internet Vikings, we have via all this iteration and with all the people that have worked here that we in 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, we had a domain registrar. We sold that because we saw that okay, the domain registrar product, there's no cross sell to what we sell today. We wanted to focus more on the hosting side, more premium hosting. So we sold that to another company. We had in the marketing side, we sold that as well at the same time, just to super focus on the the hosting side, the premium hosting side, and that's why we've grown. Like so, what I've learned, or like one learning, is that just focus is key. I know so many people have told me it. Martin Lawrence, one of the founders of Spotify, he told that to me like 15 years ago. Weird, you need to focus. Like that's what I told Daniel when we did Spotify. Like we focus on one thing, we only do Spotify, nothing else. We and that's what I've learned like over and over again. That okay, focus because maybe you can do it as one person, but the team needs to focus on one problem and solve that one problem and build a company to solve that. And that's what I'm seeing. If you're not like Microsoft, if you're not like a huge corporation that can have different verticals, but a small company, a small, I mean, under 1,000 people, one vertical is enough to cover that and then be the best in that vertical instead of going out to try to do all different things.
So I understand the focus on one thing aspect, and I know you were saying that like we had this thing, it worked out, we had that acquired. So in retrospect of this 18-year period, aside from the hosting slash premium hosting that is Internet Vikings today, how under the parent company or whether it was not even under the parent company, how many different uh, sidekicks to Internet Vikings were kind of launched and acquired or launched and shut down during that time period?
Too many.
Yeah, I was like, the first
As an
chuckle, I go, this is
entrepreneur,
going to be a big
yeah.
number.
As an entrepreneur, that's the always the problem. You try too many things, which has the pros and cons, of course. But I would say 10, 15, 20 different things that we spent money on. We had one event platform that we spent like 500K on that 15 years ago and 10, 15 years ago. And that was a lot of money for us back then that we shouldn't have done. There's a lot of decisions we took that we shouldn't have taken. We should have focused on the things that made money, not the things we lost money on. And I think that's also one learning that, like, if something is losing money and you have something else that's making money, just skip. Don't do not try to fix and throw good money off the bad ones. Like a lot of people say it, but when you are there and need to take that decision, it's so hard to take a decision. So, and I think I learned it to just okay close things down quick if it doesn't work, so you don't get into that you get stuck in yes again throwing good money after bad ones.
I mean, that makes sense. I, we don't have to focus on the exact number, but from your initial reaction to that question, I'm like, yeah, I feel like it's going to probably be a pretty big number there. But no, like Yeah, you recognize that this decision, this just picking one out of the air, this decision may not have been a great idea. This decision was a good idea, but it took away focus. That's why we sold it off and had it acquired. So there's just a lot of those decision makings, which kind of lead me into the final question we like wrapping up with, which is when you look back on this age 8, age 9, first kind of playing around with the PC side of things, all the way to where you are now with Internet Vikings in 2026, there's a lot of things that happen along that chronological timeline that I like to refer to, or most people refer to as like butterfly effects, things that just happen that keep the story going, whether they were inside of your control or outside of your control. So now that we've spanned this very long timeline, if you were to choose one specific event, whether it was in or out of your control, that was the catalyst of leading to you to where you are right now in 2026, which one of those do you think you would choose?
There's one, and it was I when I applied for the job at that web hosting company in August of 2004. I was sitting at a friend's sofa. I've slept at his sofa, and I had another friend texting me like, "Rickard, you apply to this job," and I was like, "Yeah, but I'm 18. I have no idea how to do it. What's going on here? I would never get it." And he was like, "Yeah, but just apply." And that's still a very good friend of mine. I did, and then I got a call a few days later, and like, "Do you want to come in for an interview?" And I was like, "Okay, but do you really want me? I'm like 18. Like, why do you want me?" And that I took the time to fill in that form on that website, which my gut feeling was like, okay, I would never get it. That was, I would say, probably the biggest change in career, because if I wouldn't have done that, I would probably ended up in university or high school, like somewhere else, which I would have lost 5 years in university. It was good I didn't.
Yeah, I think as well, and this is something we kind of recognized early on in the show, where at, because the entire industry of PCs was so early that you've had so much experience that like the professor may or may not have been able to teach you more than you've already figured out on your own. I feel like if you did go to university at that point and you did have that experience of I'm already here, I already know all of these things, like this is wasting time and money. Do you think, I mean, of course this didn't happen, but do you think if that did happen that you would have become less interested in the computer side of things because you were so frustrated that you went to university and were learning absolutely no new skills beyond what you've already taught yourself? Do you think that might have been a scenario?
Probably, yeah. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened. I don't know how long I would have been in at the university,
Yeah.
if it took days, hours, months, but I don't believe I would have stayed on for years.
No, that's fair. Well, yeah. So we've kind of reached the point now of 2026. I do want to thank you, Rickard, for hopping on here and sharing your story of how you got here. If anybody wants to reach out to him, whether it's about Internet Vikings or just anything whatsoever, we have his name on the screen. You can send him a message on LinkedIn if you will. And if you do need any kind of premium hosting opportunities, you can reach out to him. Go to Internet Vikings website or reach out to him as well. Please, if you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe to this channel and watch all of the previous episodes and future ones coming out. But again, Rickard, thank you again for sharing your story. And any final words for your viewers and watchers?
No, but I would say focus is the key. Focus on building the company, and everything will be good. And persistence, 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 persistence.
Yeah. All right. Well, I
Thank
appreciate your
you.
time with us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.